Among those who were in Zurich at the time, but also played an important role on ensuring that South Africa wins the bid, was former Robben Island prisoner and also ANC Veteran Tokyo Sexwale. We now have Mr. Sexwale with us. Before we get into this conversation, I saw you laughing a bit when you heard him say, "Yippee!" I wonder what kind of memories it brings for you.
Well, three things that came to my mind as I listen to you right now. First, when we're all biting our fingernails and concerned as to whether we shall win or not as members of the organizing committee FIFA 2010, what Tutu has not told is that he actually prayed. We all prayed before the announcement by Sepp Blatter. And secondly, typical of the Arch himself, instead of applauding us first and, yippee, he passed a word of regret for those who lost by saying a better luck next time. That's typical of Tutu, the peacemaker. And then, of course, thereafter, what he has not told is what happened in the hotel thereafter. He was just like a small boy, running around, wearing his cap, and it was Tutu vintage. I think what you ought to do, SABC and all the channels, is to play him now at the moment of the opening day of the World Cup, when he was saying, "I'm dreaming."
Yes.
I'm dreaming. Somebody wake me up. Shakira was there to sing our song, "It's Now Time for Africa." That is what people should remember, amongst many other beautiful things about it.
And that was really a powerful moment. And I want us to really talk about it just a little later on in this conversation. But one of the things that, some people may not know is that when you were arrested and were about to be sentenced, it was him who tried with his mitigation to save you from a harsh sentence. Remind us of that encounter.
Well, what a sad moment. But I think first, before, right now, it's people are enjoying his life and rejoicing in the fact that, he had a good run. And we should have, at this stage, also joined the world in sending our condolences to Melia, to Reverend Mpotu, to the daughter and the rest of the family, by saying condolences, but he's 90, he has lived the best life, and it's time for him to go. So let's let him go. But I owe him a personal debt of gratitude for saving my life. What you have just asked happened in 1978. We were on trial in the famous Pretoria 12 trial. And the prosecution had demanded, because of what had happened, that we should be sentenced to death. So the following day, we were waiting for the death sentence to be announced because we were already found guilty. He was requested by our legal team, led by first chief of the Constitutional Court later, which is Arthur Chaska, Dennis Cooney. We had the young Jeff Butlander, Raymond Tucker. When all the legal arguments were done, mitigation was needed. Tutu, at the time when he was the bishop, the Anglican bishop of Lesotho, came all the way from Maseru to come and give mitigation in our case. We had asked that he must not beg for our lives because we are prepared to die, but must explain to the world how we ended up in the dock, who we are, and the motivation, the causalities, the reasons that made us to end up taking up weapons. At that time, the world religious community was dealing with the question of liberation theology. Where does the church stand in armed struggle? And here we are, Mkhonto says where weapons, guns, grenades, and people had, lost their lives, people had been shot and so on, and were involved in that. Tutu came and put himself between the hangman and ourselves, particularly myself, because as accused number one, I was just a goner. And I knew for those 2 years on trial that, I'm going to end up where my Mahlangu was already waiting for us. He was able to articulate, to explain to the court who we are, why we are in that court, and why, if we are sentenced to death, it will not stop other South Africans, young people, from coming forward to take up weapons. He prevailed. In a way, he prevailed, and justice, my bet, paid him And of course, we were saved from the hangman. At that time, we were already staying in the death cells in Pretoria. We were taken out from there and were sent to Robben Island. And thanks to Tutu, I owe him his life. We worked together until when I joined his own Tutu Trust, until we went to FIFA, all these things. But then he was what you call the salt of the earth.
And
a man with a heart of gold.
And you were not the only prisoner, that he fought for. He also supported all prisoners and fought very hard to release political prisoners. I mean, you think back to that march that he led in Cape Town. Talk to us then about his involvement in the fight for political prisoners.
He was always there for us as General Secretary of the South African Council of Churches. That's a global organization. Sorry, that was part of the global organization of the World Council of Churches. They gave us adequate and sufficient support for families, for ourselves, in prison, for studies, burying our members of our families, and giving them support outside there, and linking up with the liberation organizations, particularly the ANC abroad, and linking up with the World Council of Churches so that we continue getting succor and support from the World Anti-Apartheid movement. So we used to interface with them quite a lot. And it was not a surprise that the final push in 1989, a year before the unbanning of all organizations, it was Tutu together with other members of the clergy who led that march of 30,000 people in Cape Town demanding for our final release. And it came. So this de Klerk thing must be corrected all the time. The poor man has died, but he has not told all the truths. He was forced. There was no generosity on the part of de Klerk. He was forced. That march was the very, very last arms struggle and everything, sanctions. They forced them to release Mandela and all political prisoners and ban all organizations and so on. It is for that reason that it was quite a very nice touch of history that on being released, day one, Nelson Mandela spent his first night at Tutu's residence in Cape Town.
And one of the things that really was quite important about him was the work that he did and being at the forefront with different communities. You think back to the Boipatong massacre and the role that he played there in supporting the victims, and also the interaction you then had with him when Chris Hani was assassinated. I wonder, when you look at both these encounters for you, take us back to that time with him.
Well, in the world of pacifists sometimes and people who just want to use their voice and stay away, Tutu had opted for all his life to be an activist. So he was side by side with us. He fought for the common man and particularly the underdog right until the last breath that he carried. So on being released from prison, organizations are unbanned, the ANC, PAC, everybody's back. There was a tremendous amount of violence that just came up as a result of apartheid. That's why we're pointing figures. He himself to administer de Klerk to stop this thing. Thousands of people died. He was with us on almost all these burials of people who were dead. We shared the stage with him and Nelson Mandela and Chris Hani, calling upon now de Klerk to make sure that this violence stops. So even when it came thereafter with the assassination of Chris, he came straight and he came to see me to say, let's go to understand what has happened and so on. He was with us right until the end of the pain. So that's why he had the responsibility of calling us to task. All the presidents from Nelson Mandela right until to Jacob Zuma called us to task whenever things were going wrong. So what I'm afraid of is the curse that he had left with the ANC when he had said, watch out with your majority. Other people, the apartheid had the majority in the past. Gaddafi had the majority. Hosni Mubarak of Egypt had the watch out, he said to us, you will lose this majority. It was a very low moment in our country for Tutu to issue that. And of course, I think it was wrong that the Dalai Lama, his friend, was not able to come to South Africa because of the force of circumstances that were prevailing and so on. We should not hide behind those excuses. One of the things I would actually militate for is for the Dalai Lama, this time, to be allowed to come to South Africa. He's a man of the cloth, to come and bury his friend so that we can bury, let bygones be bygones. This is Tutu's friend. He should have been there. He came at the time of Mandela in South Africa, and then, of course, was stopped from coming due to technicalities. They should not have been there. Let's forgive and forget. But, it's only the pain that we have caused him that made him to say to us, of the ANC in particular, watch out, your majority will decline. It's a curse which we must think about and pray for ourselves as we attempt to renew ourselves out of the quagmire in which the ANC has thrown itself.
And I wonder how you begin that process of renewal. Yesterday here on the show, we spoke to former President Thabo Mbeki, who was not spared from the criticism as well. And he says that the ANC needs to have an honest conversation in order for it to start looking at what really has gone wrong, especially post the curse that you're talking about. And he also said that the Arch was not wrong in what he then said to the ANC. I wonder for you, what will it take for the ruling party to overcome this curse, as you put it?
Well, renewal and renewals. Is the train still coming to allow us in the ANC to renew, or has that train long left the station? The jury is out on that one. But first and foremost, before we deceive people about renewals, is that all of us, me too, are first patriots before we become members of any other thing. The first thing to save, to put right today and for tomorrow, is the country itself. Too many things are going wrong. We are just falling apart. So our fixation should not be the renewal of an organization or Kaizer Chiefs or Pirates or whatever. It should be how we can save the country. Every organization, and I am ANC, can focus on renewing itself for South Africa. But the renewal of the ANC in the absence of seeing that the damage done, the biggest damage done, is actually on the country, on the body and soul of the country, that will send us into a wrong direction. So President Mbeki is correct, sort of, insofar as we need to renew. And perhaps there's still a chance to renew the ANC. I believe in that. However, for me, first and foremost, it is the country that is at stake more than an organization. We in the ANC must see what we can do inside the ANC to renew. Other people, even churches and so, wherever things have gone wrong. But I'm saying as long as the main target is that we are focusing on lifting and uplifting our country and our people who are suffering right now, instead of just focusing on organization. Yes, renew the ANC, but as long as it is towards saving our own country.
I'm keen to, to hear from you, because at the beginning we're talking about that moment that got us that 2010 FIFA World Cup. Now, you are in the room. We saw them being starstruck. There's Madiba, there's, the Arch as well. There's also FW de Klerk there. Describe for us that mood in that room, because we saw even Sepp Blatter at the time trying to get pictures with him.
Exuberance. This is, how can I explain it? Back home, he said, somebody wake me up. Am I dreaming? So the dream started there. It was exhilaration. It was a moment of happiness. Not only us in that room, the room was too small. Where were you, my sister, at that time? Because everybody in South Africa was standing up. It was parties and brides and Helene and everything. So it's not only us. You're focusing with us. We're just going to bring, the bid success. But in the country, it's a Thabo Mbeki left. He left there so that he can be at home to celebrate with the people. So he had to rush back at home. It was a moment, it was one of the most important highlights for our country. That is why we must pick up on such moments. The inauguration of Mandela, the winning of the 2010 World Cup, and all these things where Tutu had played a role. Pick up the countries so that we can go back to the happiness that we are required to maintain for our country and our people.
I tell you, I was in a newsroom. I even forgot that I had a deadline on that day. But as a final question, let's look at, his foundation. You were part of the launch team that launched the Desmond Tutu Foundation. Talk to us about your role very briefly, and also what you hope it achieves in the future in his honor.
Well, Tutu had to continue like Nelson Mandela with his work. Tutu was an activist on the side of people. The fact that he became Archbishop Emeritus, meaning a retired person, but who still keeps the title, meant that he wanted to continue with the work that he had been doing all along. And what was the work of Tutu? Tutu was a man with a collar and a cassock and the Bible, or the word. Those were his weapons. And philanthropy, fighting for the underdog, dressing the wounds of people, that is Tutu. Therefore, even though he had now retired from being the arch of our people, the arch of peace in the whole world, the man of the Nobel Prize, the Gandhi Prize, the UNESCO Prize, all these other prizes, he wanted to continue in some way to do his work like Mandela did. And I was serving in the Nelson Mandela Foundation at the time, and they wanted to bring the types of expertises that we had in the foundation. So we joined the Tutu Trusts. That's what it was called at first, before it was called the Tutu and the Leah and Tutu and Desmond Foundation. So it was a trust. We had to build that trust to make sure that it is properly resourced, it's got a place of working, so its vision, its mission is understood. That's how he invited us to be part of that. He wanted to proceed to take forward the work that he had done as a person of clergy, as an activist, and as a person of peace.
So many memories. Thank you so much for that and taking us back in time. We truly appreciate it. That is former Robben Island prisoner and also ANC veteran, Mr Tokyo Sexwale.